That's the ocean. Isn't that cool? What a camping spot. Wow. It's really windy though. And my truck camper's right there. Ocean, truck camper. Not far. So probably one of my most requested videos. What does this cost? Let's talk about it. I've been holding off on doing this video for the longest time, mostly because this is a very variable video to someone else's situation. A lot of people are going to have smaller rigs, a lot of people are going to have gas trucks, a lot of people are going to have just a lot of differences in what their cost is actually going to be doing this. But there's also the fact too, I guess people are just curious about how much I spend a month on doing this. I'm going to explain two different situations for this. So one for being, I'm working, one town, standing still, and the other being when I'm out traveling like this. You spend more when you're traveling too. You don't have your go-to grocery stores. Obviously fuel you're spending a lot more on because you're moving a lot more. It's just a lot, it costs a bit more. So I think it's fair to explain that and everything like that. I'm also going to give you guys some tips on how to spend less. Now, of course, these are my experiences and obviously yours is going to be very different, but it's not hard to budget for. I always say budget higher than you think you're going to need, and then you'll for sure succeed. So with that note, let's get started. Oh, don't spill the coffee. So the first thing I would like to talk about is van life or living in a truck camper or even RV life, anything like that. It's not as cheap as it used to be. If you were to get into this lifestyle like 10 years ago, it would have been probably the most dirt cheap thing you could do. Finding camping was easier. Everything was just easier about it because it was less known. There's less people doing it. Now things have changed. We've went through a lot of changes in the world in the last like 5 years. Fuel costs a lot more. Groceries cost a lot more. And another thing too, the truck that you drive, the camper that you buy, that costs a lot more now too. But you know what else costs a lot more? Housing, renting, anything like that, that costs a lot more too. And just because you're living in a truck camper or van or RV doesn't mean food's going to be cheaper or anything like that. It's the same as what it would be if you were living in a house. So kind of remember this, travel is expensive. Living in a van or truck camper, I would say is not. The travel side of this lifestyle is what's really expensive. If you're stationary and just living in one town or city, you can save quite a bit doing this lifestyle. It is super windy out there. It's just rocking the truck camper right now. So getting to my expenses, now this is going to be different for everyone. Obviously I'm traveling right now, so I'm budgeting really high for fuel. I'm going to go over what I budget for when I'm not traveling, and it's not very different from what I'm doing now, but it's also quite a bit cheaper. So for when I am traveling, my biggest expense is fuel, of course. I've never actually hit this, but this is my budget. So I budget $1,000 a month for fuel. In July, I hit $800, and that's the closest I've ever gotten to that. So yeah, it's budgeted high, but it gives me some wiggle room. Like once I leave the island, it's going to be a straight shot back to Saskatchewan to drop my bike off and grab my snowboard. That's obviously going to be like all the way out there and then back towards like Calgary or something, or Revelstoke. That's going to be like $1,200 in just fuel. So I'll go over it then. So what I saved now, it all levels out, right? So my second biggest expense would have to be food. Food is about $600 a month I'm spending on that. I don't get too upset about that price. It's not like I'm eating out and it's adding to it. I go out, I buy lots of meat, eggs, just normal stuff. I do the best I can to try to find deals, but it's really hard on the road. When you're in one place, you kind of know the cheaper grocery stores, and I'm not able to get to them right now. So yeah, it is what it is. Insurance on the truck and the camper. Now the camper's insurance cost me $500 for the year. I ended up just paying it out in full. And if you can do that, that'll make your life a lot easier with a lot of this stuff when you're traveling. If you can pay off stuff like right away before you go out and travel, and then you're good for the year, that really helps out every month. But my insurance for the truck, I did not pay off in full. That's quite a bit more. It's more like $1,200 for the year. So I didn't bother just paying it off. I do it monthly, and that's $130 a month. Apple Care, $15.60 a month. YouTube Premium, $13.64 a month. Amazon Prime, $43.86 a month. And Audible, which I might just get rid of here soon because I got enough Harry Potter books to listen to. That's $15.70 a month. That's really expensive. I don't know why Audible costs so much for listening to books. My phone, that is $116 a month. Now my phone's not paid off completely. That's why it's so high. The actual like data plan would be closer to like $80 a month. Newest to it is Starlink. That is $178 a month. Now that's going to be a variable because once I am parked up for the winter and I'm in one area, I'm not going to be using Starlink really. I'll probably be just using my data plan on my phone. So I'll be canceling that for the winter and saving myself $178 a month. So the next thing to talk about would be my propane usage. So that varies because I budget differently for the summer and the winter. Winter, of course, is higher because that's my heat source. And obviously I go through it a lot more in the winter. So here are the numbers. So in the summer, I budgeted $150. I have not used anywhere near that in the summer. My cost of propane has been closer to like $50 for the month. So that's a positive. Propane runs my stove, fridge, furnace, water heater. So the difference between the summer and the winter is quite a bit. With the propane furnace running, it uses a lot of propane. I can't deny that. Would it be cheaper to run a diesel heater? Yes and no. My experience with diesel heaters, and I have used them, is in the Chinese brand ones. And I can't call them as reliable as what my propane furnace is. My propane furnace is 23 years old and it works flawless. It's the same one that was in my last camper and that one worked flawless. The only time that you ever have issues with them is when it's really cold out and the propane stops working. How to mitigate that is I use a little block heater, put it on the propane tank, and it keeps the propane bay warm. And that's basically an extreme cold. I don't even think I'm gonna have to do that this year because that bay stays very warm, seeing that my furnace is right beside where my propane tanks are. I think it's gonna keep it warm enough that I won't have to worry about that. But to get to the short part of it, I spend about $320 a month on propane in the winter. Now, last winter, there was months that I only spent like $220. It's a variable cost. It's if I have a month of if I have 2 weeks of -40, yeah, I'm probably gonna go through a lot of propane. So yeah, my propane furnace, it chugs a lot of propane and it is what it is. I don't mind it. And it's ducted to my tanks and it keeps all that stuff warm in the winter too. So I kind of need it. And anyone suggesting that I'm gonna go with a diesel heater, I already know about diesel heaters and everything, and I have my reasons why I'm not going to one. And I'll have to address that in another video. So what's the grand total of all that? It's about $2,300. That's what I spend in a month while traveling. It's not exactly the most crazy amount. I've heard of people spending a lot more, especially covering more ground. So yeah, that's about how much I'm spending while I'm on the move. Now let's be honest here, there's miscellaneous stuff that comes up. There's needs to wash the truck, have to do maintenance on the truck, need trekking poles. Like just stuff like that that comes up. So of course it does end up costing a bit more for the random stuff, but my baseline usually is about $2,300 a month. Now if I spend less on fuel, it can level out there. So, is what it is. Now let's talk about what I'm going to spend this winter. So, let's talk more about what it's like to be parked stationary in one area for a little while. So my fuel drops a lot. My fuel needs is more like $400 a month, and I usually don't break that. I can usually get about 2 weeks before I start thinking about fueling up the truck, and usually by then it's like at half a tank. And so when I was living in my little town there and I was just living, I was able to actually save quite a bit of money on fuel, and my expenses dropped quite a bit. My income but at that time was like $3,900 a month, and I was maybe spending under $1,500 a month altogether on bills. Like, this is very, very cheap if you're staying in one spot. And if you have a more efficient like van or something, it's going to be even cheaper. So also, I think another thing about staying in one place, if you're in like your hometown and you know the cheap grocery stores, you know where to get deals on food and stuff, you're going to save money there too. That's another thing, is when you're on the road, you don't know. Everywhere you go is kind of new. So you end up at these grocery stores that you don't know, and you think it's going to be cheap, and you realize it costs so much, and then you're trying to find out where the cheap grocery stores are. It takes a bit, and once you do figure it out, it does get cheaper, but it can be harder to find cheap groceries and stuff like that when you're in a new town all the time. I guess that also brings me to like trying to find places to sleep. A lot of times when you're in a new place, you're driving around looking for a place to sleep, and you're burning more fuel doing that because not every spot works out. When you are in one place, like one town, you get your like 5 spots that you rotate, and you're able to quickly know, yeah, I'm going here tonight, I'm going here tonight, I'm going here tonight. And you just quickly rotate those like 5 spots every night, and you're burning less fuel because you know where you're going, so you know where to go. You can spend a lot of time driving just looking for places to hang out, where when you kind of, I don't want to say a routine, but you get like a roster of places that you know you can go and are kind of all right to go hang out at for the day. Yeah, I don't know. I used to go over to parking lot for the dog park. I used to go over there and hang out. I don't know. It was always nice to go there. I was able to go to the walking trails and get a run in, anything like that. It was a really good spot. Also, where my gym was, it was attached to a grocery store. A lot of times I would go get groceries, and then I would just hang out in that parking lot for like half the day. I don't know. It was a small town. It had good walking trails, so I couldn't complain. Now the next one too. So I have put on probably about 6,000 kilometers since starting this journey. So when I was hanging out in one spot and just doing like little weekend trips or whatnot, I was maybe driving 1,500 kilometers a month, something like that. Not a lot. Enough that I was able to do an oil change every like 6 months, and that was usually it. Now that I'm on the road, I'm spending a lot more time driving, so it's a lot more maintenance on the truck, it's more wear and tear. There's even more maintenance on the camper. I'm going down a lot of rougher roads, and things are gonna break, right? Like, it is what it is. Actually, to be honest, this Northern Light has not had a like hiccup yet from like going down rough roads or anything like that. It's held up like amazing. Like, there's nothing separating, nothing like that. Like, everything is just stout with it. I absolutely love that about these. They are a really good quality camper for going down rough roads like that. You'd also go Bigfoot would be great for that too. I've heard with campers that have like the seams on the sides and everything, they're not fiberglass, and that a lot of times they'll pull away from vibration and just break the seals and the caulking on them. So you have to keep up with your maintenance on that. This, you don't really have to worry about it. Your only intrusions are basically the cutouts for anything to do with like your vents or anything like that. So I haven't noticed any like cracking in all my seals and everything on here. It's just been stout. It's really incredible. I love this thing. Like, the travel aspect of this is just so good. I'm gonna say, I think if you're like me and you don't have an internet business or anything like that, or you're not working on the road. If you are working on the road, then that's awesome. You probably actually stay in one spot for a time being too, I imagine, depending on how much you make and your lifestyle. But like, I've been out here now for 3 days, and I'm just enjoying the views. I'm not doing too much, but I'm literally in a spot beside the ocean. It's awesome. So I'm enjoying it. And because I like to snowboard, I'll be heading over to closer to the Alberta border. I'm hoping somewhere not too bad for winter, but ideally I'll probably end up having to deal with -40 again. So that's kind of what I spend in a month. I know this is really scattered and everything, but honestly, guys, it's more, if you want like the gist of it, it's basically I spend travel-wise in a truck camper that gets 12 to 14 miles per gallon. I spend about $2,500 Canadian a month. That's the gist of it. There's not much else to it. I don't have a business or anything like that. My only form of income right now is a little bit of money from YouTube. I mean, every little bit helps. I've thought about other ways of maybe getting more income from that. I don't know if I'm going to do anything else for that yet. What I will be doing this winter is just getting a job somewhere and then just enjoying my winter snowboarding, making videos, of course. That also brings me to, I'll probably be cutting down on the content and not having as many adventures. I'm going to try and keep up with what I'm doing right now for a roster of videos, but all in all, I want to make sure I at least have a minimum 1 video a week. And of course, you guys are the ones who have like kept me out here for even longer than I thought I could be. You guys liking and subscribing have really helped, and thank you. And like anyone, I'm sure doing this full time would be an absolute dream and a blessing, but right now it's not on the cards. So I will be going and getting a job for the winter. And that's the plan. And I mean, like, I could stay out on the island here and just avoid winter, but come on. Everyone loves a good winter camping video, or those days when you're just cozy in the camper and it's snowing outside. It's so good. I mean, this is pretty cozy right now too. Windy day in the camper, same by the ocean. But all right, you guys, I think that's it for this one. That's all I had to talk about this week. So if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and subscribe. And I can't wait to take you guys with me on the next one. Seriously. Later.